UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Pyfer is here, taking place in Seattle, and I think Israel Adesanya is gonna win. I said it. I know Israel Adesanya is washed, and I know Joe Pyfer has the record for the hardest punch on the power cube. I don't really take that into account, to be honest, but it's a cool metric to throw out there. But Israel Adesanya has all the experience and all of the skills in the world, especially at this level, to be able to beat an up and comer and a guy on the way up, and Joe Pyfer, right? Now, Joe Pyfer has gone through his learning stage against Jack Hermanson, where he got outstruck on the feet, and oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this matchup, and it scares me. It does scare me. Israel Adesanya is clearly on the downtrend, and recent pictures have just come out of a comparison, but like during his Evolve, what is it called? Media Day, and his Joe Pyfer Media Day face shots comparison. I'll put it up on the screen, and it looks like Izzy broke his nose in camp, or sometime before or after the Evolve fight, and that worries me because it means he's getting caught more often. His reaction time is slowing down, and against a guy like Joe Pyfer, that can be dangerous. But back to what I was saying. Israel Adesanya has all the intangibles you want as a fighter. Um, Athleticism wise, still very athletic. And just because he has slowed down doesn't mean that he's still slow. Doesn't mean he's slow. Because Israel Adesanya's speed, just seeing him slow a little bit, is like a normal fighter right now. He's basically just gone back to normal. And Joe Pyfer is very good. He can mix in the grappling, but I don't even think that'll be a factor in this fight because I think Israel Adesanya's takedown defense and the guys he's defended takedowns against is just levels above anything Joe Pyfer has to offer him. And takedown defense is one of those things where you can keep that up for a while. Like, that's a skill thing. I understand strength and stuff like that does play a factor in there, but Israel Adesanya is bigger than when he was a champion. He is more built for sure. Now, let's talk about the obvious red flags we need to watch out for with Izzy. The boxing defense. And in this matchup, that is the worst thing you can have. His boxing defense is notoriously okay. But in recent fights, as his reaction time has slowed down, it's been a lot more noticeable. And against a guy like Joe Pyfer, who throws big straight shots down the middle, that's scary. Izzy's got a good team behind him, and I think the guys at City Kickboxing are gonna make a read on that, and I bet they worked heavily on ways to avoid that boxing range or kind of counter it a little bit. And just moving off the center line is gonna be a big thing for Izzy. He likes to sway back a lot, but I don't think that's what he should be doing against Joe Pyfer. Now I understand instinct is gonna come into play, and he's gonna end up doing that a few times, but that's what can get him caught. Now let's talk about the positives. Joe Pyfer's boxing defense isn't that great either. People don't talk about this. People do not talk about this because everyone's so heavily focused on Izzy's boxing defense. Joe Pyfer gets tagged a lot. We saw in his fight against Jack Hermanson, even though Jack Hermanson does 1 HP per hit, he is still landing on Joe Pyfer consistently and ends up outclassing him for 4 out of 5 rounds. And I think this being a 5-round fight is definitely going to favor Adesanya, just due to the championship experience, obviously. And to be honest, I don't think Joe Pyfer's wrestling is all that good. I know I talked about Izzy's takedown defense. Let's go to the Joe Pyfer side of that. I don't think his wrestling is all that good. Now, if Joe Pyfer can drop him or get him to the ground at all, then I think it could be a very dangerous game for Izzy to play there. But I don't think Joe Pyfer, besides his power and his speed and his athletic ability, I don't really think he has much to offer to Adesanya. Now, I know power and speed is really all you might need against an aging kickboxer in Adesanya. He doesn't have grappling to go to. He's purely a striker. But I don't think being one-dimensional or not one-dimensional, but having one thing that can really get to Izzy, I don't think that is gonna be enough to beat him. Now we saw against Imavov, it kind of was, but Imavov on the feet, man. Imavov is a very high-class elite kickboxer. So I don't put Joe Pyfer on that same tier as Imavov, right? I don't think he's as fast. I think he's way more powerful, right? But I think Izzy's going to be able to get past that. And I have Israel Adesanya by decision. Now, I think he's going to be very tentative in the first 2 rounds and maybe drop both of them, but I know he'll drop the first. Oh, oof. Okay. He will drop one of the 2 rounds and end up winning the later rounds. I could see him getting hurt, and I could even see him getting caught and knocked out, to be honest. And this is a very scary fight. I wouldn't say it's 50-50. I don't think it's a very close fight. I think the winner will be very clear, but it's just so hard to know who to pick here because of the opposite trajectories of both of their careers, right? And I understand I'm an Izzy fan, even past all the weird shit, right? He's who got me into the sport. I am an Israel Adesanya fan, and I understand my bias is coming into play here. But I think Israel Adesanya is going to get the decision win, lose one of the first 2 rounds, and then end up picking up in the later 3 rounds and getting that decision bagged. And yeah, man, this is scary, but it's not the worst matchup in the world. But I feel like we couldn't get the Brendan Allen matchup. Come on, that would have been free cheese. Anyway, on to the co-main event. I'm gonna run through these because I just really wanted to hammer heavily into the main event. Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. We saw this fight before. Both of these fighters are on much different trajectories than when they first met. Alexa Grasso is deteriorating as well. She's slower, less aggressive, less willing to throw in the pocket, and her grappling has actually gotten worse. But well, not we all. I don't know if many people saw it, but in the first fight, this is a rematch, by the way. Macy Barber was dead ass just shadow boxing at range. That's not a joke. She actually was. I don't know if she thought the force from the punch was gonna shoot like an air cannon at Alexa Grasso, but that didn't happen. I think Alexa Grasso is gonna win this. I don't think Macy Barber has gone up against the greatest levels of competition recently. Definitely still rank caliber, but like I can't get past the championship experience of Alexa Grasso here. I understand she got pretty much dominated in her last fight against what's her name? Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all, Natalia Silva. But Natalia Silva's really good, man, and I think she could beat Valentina. So I got Alexa Grasso winning this by decision, and I just think Alexa Grasso's boxing is way better. I think she's gonna be able to defend the takedowns. I don't know. I don't think Macy Barber's that good. Anyway, Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. Michael Chiesa, round 1 sub, too strong, too big, too. Why is this fight happening? And why is it on the main card? They're just handing Michael Chiesa. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, fighting cans in his late 30s. Fuck that fight, man. Julian Erosa versus Larian Douglas. Now, this is Larian Douglas's debut, and I think he's gonna knock out Julian Erosa. And to be honest, this is not even because I think he's that good. I just think Julian Erosa is one of those guys. He's a Terrence McKinney type of fighter. He will either finish you or get finished. And I just think it's happened too many times, man. This guy's 31-13. He's older. He's still slick, don't get me wrong, but I think this is Larian Douglas's debut. I think he'll be able to get it done. First round TKO for Larian Douglas. Up next, Mansur Abdul Malik versus Yusri Belguri. Now, Mansur Abdul Malik is undefeated, but he has not looked great against low levels of competition. Like, this guy made it close with Cody Brundage. And you know what? Cody Brundage looked pretty good in his last fight. But this was the Cody Brundage that was just a victim winning or keeping his career alive by getting fouled, to be honest. And Yusri Belguri, even though his contender series fights were underwhelming, and he even lost one, I believe, he's pretty good. And he trains with a great team over there with Alex Pereira and Glover Teixeira MMA. And I just think he's coming into his own in MMA for real. And to have the experience of fighting Adesanya twice and fighting Alex Pereira twice, this guy's gonna piece up Mansour Abdul Malik and TKO him in the second or third round. I think he's good. I don't know if he's gonna be ranked ever, but against a guy like Mansour Abdul Malik, who's very hittable, I think he'll be able to get it done. Moving it down on the card, Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. Terrence McKinney's actually looked pretty good in his last few fights, but that's because he's been winning. You know, glass cannon, coin flip fighter, Terrence McKinney, very entertaining. Kyle Nelson does have pop in his hands. And, oh, it's a tough fight to pick. It's a tough fight to pick. I'm going to go with Terrence McKinney. First round TKO. I don't think Kyle Nelson's going to be able to withstand that first barrage that Terrence McKinney throws at him. So I'm going to go with the first minute KO for Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney does have good grappling, but I don't think he'll need it in this fight. Moving down to the prelims, Ignacio Bahamonde versus Tufik Musafayev. Now, Tufik Musafayev in the UFC has not looked great. He's gone up against good competition, to be fair, but Ignacio Bahamonde is a top 15 caliber guy. And I just think he's going to piece him up and knock him out. The range and the height advantage is way too much for Tufik Musafayev to deal with. And I understand he's a good boxer, but I don't think it'll be enough. And Ignacio's dynamic, man. That's the one thing he has that separates him from 99% of the other guys. Like, he will throw shit that a lot of people won't. A lot of people don't have the confidence to. So, Ignacio Bahamondes, I'm going to go with a round 3 TKO. Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson Jr. Now, Chase Hooper has been a victim recently against Anthony Hernandez. But Lance Gibson Jr., man. Now, on the feet, I would favor Lance Gibson Jr. This guy made it close with Bobby Green on the feet, which is pretty impressive, considering he's fighting Chase Hooper. And Chase Hooper on the feet, just spending a lot, not doing a lot of shit. But on the ground, I think it'll be a whole different world. I think Chase Hooper will be able to get it there. And I think after getting knocked out, he's lost a lot of. I'm not gonna say he lost a lot of his confidence, but I think he knows where he stands. So I don't think he'll try a bunch of dumb shit on the feet this time. I think he'll be able to get it to the ground and sub Lance Gibson Jr. in the first round. Moving down, Tyrell Fortune versus Marcin Tybura. I'm going to go with Marcin Tybura by decision here. I think it'll be pretty boring. A lot of jiggling around and stuff. Tyrell Fortune is not that good. He was good in Bellator, but that's Bellator, and we see how these Bellator ticks do in the UFC. And Marcin Tybura is the heavyweight gatekeeper. Man, if you are not good enough to be ranked at heavyweight, he will let you know. And I think that's what's going to happen here against Tyrell Fortune. Tyrell Fortune is also not young. I believe he's 35, which in the heavyweight division isn't bad, but he's not some up-and-coming prospect, right? He's had a whole career. Moving down, Gabriela Fernandez versus Casey O'Neill. I swear to God, the UFC website is so ass. I'm going to go with Gabriela Fernandez. Casey O'Neill's coming off a big layoff, and Gabriela Fernandez is actually pretty good. She's a decent finisher. She finished Wang Kong, dropping her and then subbing her very fast, which is very impressive to me because I'm pretty high on Wang Kong, and I don't think Casey O'Neill is all that to begin with. So Gabriela Fernandez by decision. Moving down, Navajo Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. Now, Navajo Sterling has a habit of being a little tentative, and he can sometimes look slow on the feet. But against a guy like Bruno Lopez, I think he's going to knock him out in the first round, honestly. I think he'll want to put on a performance. You know, he's on the same card as Izzy. CKB guys need to do well here. I think he's way better technically than Bruno Lopez. Physically, it's not even close. And I don't think Bruno Lopez has much to offer him. I'm just hoping it's not one of those boring Navajo Sterling decisions. You know, he should be finishing some of the guys that he's kind of dragged to a decision. So I'm going to go Navajo Sterling round 1 KO. Now, Ricky Simone versus Adrian Yanez. I'm going Adrian Yanez. I am going Adrian Yanez to win this by decision. Now, just as easy as I say that, I can also see him getting slimed out in the first round by Ricky Simone, who does have crazy power. But I just don't think he's that technically skilled. Ricky Simone has good wrestling. Adrian Yanez has good takedown defense. The one thing I'm really worried about with Adrian Yanez is his boxing defense. He can sometimes leave himself open on the feet, especially right after he throws his punches. When he resets, it's kind of delayed, and guys can catch him in that range, just as Rob Font did. But I think he's gonna be way too fast for Ricky Simone. I think he's gonna be slick, circling around the outside, and I think it's gonna be one of those fights where Ricky Simone just lets it get away from him. And Adrian Yanez, I think he's going to take the decision. Moving down, Alexia Thainara versus Bruno Brazil. Bruno Brazil is honestly kind of frail for the division. Not frail, but not, I don't know. She's pretty small. That's what I'm trying to say. And Alexia Thainara is not small and very physically imposing. So I'm going to take Alexia Thainara by decision. Not too much to say about this fight. But yeah, y'all, these are my predictions for Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer in Seattle. Now, if you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Other than that, those are my thoughts. I'll see y'all later. Peace.